I'm originally from Georgia, but I live in Italy and I work here. I have a PhD in basically in technology enhanced learning, educational technologies, which I required during the pandemic. So that's also an interesting experience. I have been involved in the field since 2005 in different roles. Right now, I'm in between the in the transition period. I'm going to start soon in the University of Foggia in Italy as a program manager. So my experience in the pandemic was for myself also, and also for my son, has been really interesting. I was about to graduate from my PhD studies finally. I had submitted my PhD thesis right before the lockdown started because I foresaw it. So I was very, I regulated myself. So I came to the I made final touches to my thesis and I handed it over. And I was one of the first PhD students who defended the thesis online. It was quite an experience, like, because nobody would think about it because Italy was one of the first countries in the West to close down. So there was a discussion even, like, do you want to do it online or do you need to justify it? And I had to really explain that I don't see that any time, because I was defending my thesis in Estonia, I had to explain and justify that I don't see that anytime soon the borders will open and I will be able to travel. Because from Italy, it was obvious, but to Estonia, not so much that period. It was beginning of March. As for my parent, and I also started a new job, a postdoc position, and completely online. I haven't even visited the university because we are on constant lockdowns. There is no possibility to move between the regions. Yes, if you have work reasons, you can, but still, it was possible to do everything on distance. So I was able to sort of stay put. In the beginning, because I also did my PhD from distance, I worked on distance. It was okay. I mean, there was not much change in my routine, like, except for I was going several times a week at work, and now I was completely online. And then I had several roles: a mother, teacher, also, which I don't have an experience of teaching elementary school children, and a researcher, and almost a PhD graduate. So several roles to shuffle during the spring time. In my case, because not only that we live in Italy, and in Italy, in the south, Italian schools are not that tech savvy. It's not Estonia. They don't use technology so much. But also, this particular school that my son goes to is quite a case. It's not a traditional Italian school. It's a state school, but it has a different methodology. It is a Frene-based method. It's called natural method, and it's all hands-on. It's all collaborative. It's all very engaging, no competition, but no technology. Children didn't use anything. So for us, it was a change, not towards innovation, but a backward change, because the school methods were quite innovative in itself, but when they added technology side, it all became this kind of a transmission paradigm type of pedagogy. It was just and school teachers were completely confused. While at some point in some countries, it was more or less easy to transfer everything to Zoom. I mean, I say like more or less. They just replaced the face-to-face teaching and frontal lessons with Zoom. And that's why most of the schools adopted Zoom and other technologies to do the synchronous teaching and learning. In our school, it was not, the teachers realized that it was not the solution because they didn't do it before. It was all activity based, it was all collaboration projects. But also, they were not able to match the technologies with their quite innovative pedagogy. So then we regressed. Even now, my son does. Even in there is some kind of a building problem in the school. They still do this distance teaching and learning, and I still see as a practitioner and a professional in the field how much technology is not used in my son's school. That was one of the first frustrations. But in the spring, it was all about survival. So teachers themselves were very conscious about the psychological effect, because it was most of the effects that it had. Maybe it was a shock. It was in Italy because we had every evening so many people dying, and sort of kind of an apathy and let's survive approach. So it was the whole spring semester, some kind of homeworks, many homeworks, while people had to sit at home and work, and some had to juggle between different several children and also the home stuff to do and also work. So it was very, very tense. And from September, sort of, we found our rhythm. Also, there was some kind of a new type of routines introduced coming also from the school, but also from the ministry level. So the experience was very, very tough. And what I'm worried about schools right now is not how they use technologies or how innovative it is, rather the psychological side of the kids and also the families, because I think that what we understood from this period is that the schools have social function. Like the schools are much more than just some institutions where kids go and study and they develop. It's a social, and it's very obvious, especially in countries like Italy, because the social activity is very, very, I don't know, everything is based on this kind of personal human relations. So that was one of the most important things that everybody was talking about. So now I'm talking about this phenomenon from the perspective of a mother, but I also have, of course, some experiences as a researcher. I have researched this, the experience of teachers from Facebook groups where they started reorganizing themselves. So there were several topics, but one of the topics is this: how much the schools entered from the perspective of teachers. The parents entered the school and they were not very happy with it. Like, they are sitting in front of us, they are always with us. But then there were some comments, for instance, like, yeah, they didn't enter the school, we entered their homes. So this phenomenon where the schools are entering everyday lives of people, and what schools mean in this situation is something that needs to be reflected on, because we always thought schools as some kind of an institutions for education, but it's more than that. And I think that was obvious when the schools were conceived as a concept. That was one of this labor distribution and the construction of modern society. And now we maybe forgot about it. And there is this discussion about distance schools too, and how we can make sense of it and maybe use this opportunity to make schools more technological. But I think we still need to think in terms of how to integrate technologies, how to use technologies to maybe change some practices or maybe innovate. But for me, from a perspective of a mother, for me, distance schools are not a solution or an option, or I don't see them as a good solution or any solution, or why do we need a solution? So those are my thoughts from the parent perspective.
Good, thank you for sharing. I have a question about the restructuring. You mentioned restructuring. So teachers entered the people's homes, basically, and the thing doesn't seem to go away. So how would you suggest it to be improved for next year to be better, easier on parents and their kids, consequently? What can be done from your point of view?
We are in the emergency situation. We're talking about emergency. I think that we are almost out of it, but it depends where. I'm originally from Georgia, and my country doesn't see the end yet because the vaccination is going on very slowly. In Italy, I think that from September we're going to get back to normality. At least that's what I hope for. In the emergency situation, I think that experimenting more and sort of feeling more, now that we have in my son's school especially, it was a very big problem, how to use the technologies, how to contextualize the technologies for your own teaching and learning, and how to use existing systems that you have been using in a new way. So there, I feel like there's this kind of an misalignment between the teachers' desires, what teachers can do with this technology, from ability-wise also, because there are certain level of competence you need to handle the technology, but also from the side of the school administration, maybe, because I feel like there is this monitoring pressure on the teachers. That's what I see, for instance, also in Italy and also in my own country of origin. So I think that there has to be some kind of a negotiation between the higher level structures, the policy level, and teachers, so the teachers can somehow innovate and do something with these technologies. Because right now I feel like it's just seen as a temporary thing, and they're trying to survive and just put kids in front of the screens in synchronous mode, and that's it. So this is not viable, and I'm sure it's not like that in Estonia, because I know teachers are much more independent and then more resources. But